So what I'd love for you to do is take a deep breath in. Breathe in very, very deeply. Plant your feet on the ground. Open your palms. And let go of your thoughts. Let go of the stresses of the day. Let go of the stresses of the week. Really become mindful of how your breath feels when it enters in. You're given the breath of life. The Creator has given you this. It's feeding your inner energy, your prana or your chi. So each time you breathe in, be in gratitude. You are upright. You are walking on this beautiful, amazing planet. You are touching your families. You're touching your neighbors. You're changing your community just by being. So as you breathe, be in that deep gratitude for that breath of life. Inhale fully, breathing in till you cannot breathe one more sip of air. And as you exhale, release and let go. Let go into this space of now. Let go of your worries, your concerns. Let go of your thoughts of your careers, your neighbors, your finances. Just let go. Creator, Great Spirit, Giver of life and Giver of breath, we come to you today in a good way, and we are only asking for good things. As we breathe in the breath of life that has come straight from you, we ask that our connection to you be strong and clear. And Great Spirit, I ask you, the messages that I share today are your messages, that I move out of the way, Creator, so that you may share your knowledge and your wisdom, and most of all, your love. Great Spirit, quiet our minds, quiet our hearts, so that we may listen to our own inner voice, our higher self that is connected directly to you, Great Spirit. Creator, let us not be distracted. Let us be true and filled with love for all of our neighbors, for all of our brothers and sisters in the world that are seeking the truth. For we are all right. We're searching and seeking. We're walking this red road and asking for your knowledge and your wisdom and your strength and your courage. We ask for the four directions. The east, where the sun rises and the great awakening begins, where the eagle flies and brings us clarity and vision. To the south, where the fire that burns within us is ignited and the wolf brings us intelligence. To the west, where our ancestors go to rest, we ask that they walk with us. They give us knowledge and understanding, and bring with them the bear that gives us strength and courage. To the direction of the north, where the great white buffalo brings us wisdom, and that we may be grounded to Mother Earth, Great Spirit. For we know we are the stewards of her. She sustains us and gives us food, gives us water, all of our sustenance. We are connected with her. Let us remember to walk gently, with peace in our footsteps, with love in our hearts, and with kindness on our lips. We ask these things in the name of all that is. So it shall be. Amen. Ho! Don't you feel better? Just that. We got what we came for. We're going to go ahead and go. Mom has been here many times. And so we thank you for joining us, and we would like to wish you a happy birthday. So do you mind if we sing to you?
No.
Yes.
Yes? Do you want us to sing happy birthday, or do you just want us to say happy birthday?
I want you to say happy birthday.
Sing happy birthday? Will you guys join me? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kate. Happy birthday to you. And many more. Beautiful. How many of you were here last week? How many of you were here last week? So we went through different scriptures, the Bible and the Quran, and we learned about things that we could do to let go so that we could truly move into a new consciousness, a different way of thinking. So I'm going to do a real quick recap, very, very quick. First of all, how many of you know that we are in a time of great change? No matter what your belief system is, no matter whether you're Christian, you're Muslim, you're Buddhist, you're Hindu, you're Wiccan, does not matter, you're welcome here. All religions, all belief systems do believe we're in a time of great change. Great, great change. We're morphing and we're changing. We're given this opportunity to be able to rise in our consciousness, to have, some people will call it the God mind, some people will call it the Christ consciousness, some people will call it the collective consciousness, some people will even call it the Buddha consciousness. But it's a different way of thinking than what we've been doing for the last many, many, many centuries. So we learned to let go. And we learned to let go of several things, like fear. Now, see, if I touch it, it doesn't. I should just not touch it. Okay. So we learned to let go of fear, judgment, expectations. Judge yourself. We judge ourselves way before we judge other people, don't we? We do. We're so much faster to judge ourselves and tell ourselves how we're not smart enough, or we're not skinny enough, or we're not tall enough, or we don't have the right job, or we don't have the right house, or we don't live in the right community. Do you know it's perfect? You are perfect exactly where you are. Exactly where you are. And some people don't understand that. We also learned how to let go of guilt. How many of you have guilt? Okay. So we showed this cone. And this cone shows everything is a vibration. Science has now determined that we are all energy. We're only 0.001% physical matter. The rest of us is energetic frequency. We vibrate at a frequency. Each one of us has a frequency. Each thought has a frequency. So scientifically, they've been able to say, okay, if you're in joy, you vibrate at a certain megahertz. If you're in guilt, you vibrate at a different level. So up here at the top, it talks about being expanded, consciousness, being in love, being in enlightenment, being in joy, being in happiness. So these are expanded states of awareness. And down at the bottom, there are things like guilt and shame, and that's a contracted state. And when you're in a contracted state of awareness, when you're beating yourself up with guilt. Now, guilt does have a purpose, I want to let you know. Guilt is not bad. Guilt is meant to spur us to do the right thing. So if I feel guilt because I've done something, then the way I alleviate that guilt is I go back and apologize. I may not be able to erase it. I'm not a time traveler. At least not yet. Not yet. But I can't go back and erase it, but I can apologize for it. Your apology, some people base on whether they can let go of the guilt by if someone forgives you. That is not your journey, my love. Your journey is to show the person respect. That you are respectful, that you are sorry for what you've done. You can tell them you're sorry, and then them forgiving you is their journey. Has nothing to do with you. How many of you knew that? Has nothing to do with you. So many people say, but they didn't forgive me, but they didn't forgive me, and I feel so bad, but they didn't forgive me. That is their journey. As long as you, in your heart of hearts, shared from your heart, that's all that matters. So being in this expanded state of awareness is important. How many of you, when you're happy, you can feel it? If you're not raising your hand, you're lying. If you're happy, you want dance. I mean, sometimes you have people that get really, really, really excited calling. When you're happy, man, she's vibrating off the world. She just is so excited. Well, that excitement changed the cells in your body. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today. So this expanded state of awareness is where we're trying to be. So how many people were here again last time when we were doing the letting go, when I said let's let go of fear and anger and guilt and shame and judgment, expectation and attachments? How many of you could stay in that state of all of that is gone for the last 2 weeks? You stayed in the state of shame on you. Shame on you. I can't believe you didn't stay in that state. No, it's because we're spiritual beings having a human experience. When you're walking in human form, you're learning how to stay connected to your essence and your spirit, stay connected to the Creator. You're learning. You learn through what? Your experiences. Every spirit learns through their experiences. How many of you have children or have a child in your life that you care about? How many of you really want them to learn by you telling them not to do? How many of you have seen that they don't learn by you telling them not to do? Mm-hmm. They learn by what?
Experience.
Their own experience. And one of the scriptures in the Bible says, do not take advice from someone who has not personally experienced what you're walking through. Because so many people, isn't it easy to say, well, if it were me, I would do blah, 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 blah. And how many of you have ever done that, and then you got in that experience, and you did exactly the opposite of what you said you would do? How many of you that has happened? Okay, it's because walking in that way is very different than speaking about it. So if we're trying to stay up here, it's important for us to evaluate everything that we're doing and we're saying. What we're allowing into our eyes, our ears, our thought process, what we're watching on TV, what we're listening to on the radio, what we're reading about in the newspaper, what we're allowing our friends to talk to us about. Because guess what? Negativity grows very rapidly. Have you ever experienced that? Whether it be in a job or in your personal experience. Somebody came in, everything was awesome. Somebody came in who was a little bit negative, and they started talking to everybody else, and pretty soon the whole environment turned negative. We've all experienced that. So it's important for us to learn, because today it's about how can we continue to ascend even with the chaos out there. How many of you know there's chaos out there? You know there's chaos. There's craziness. There's stuff being sprayed in the air and in the food and in the water, and it's just nuts. And your neighbor, you get on the road, somebody's beeping their horn, yelling at you, flipping you off, and you're like, I'm just driving. It's chaotic. So how can we ascend in this chaos? So I'm just giving you a recap of what we're going to talk about. So in the visual spectrum, how many of you know you can only see about 1%? The human eye can see about 1%. Animals can see differently, so they can see more than just 1%. But we as human beings can see about 1%. Okay? It's important that we know this. Here, this chart, just to let you know, talks about the different frequency and emotions. If you guys want this information, if you're left brain, I promise you, you can Google it. It will come up, and it comes up with really, be mindful of what you find on the internet. Any Joe Blow can post something on the internet. You want to make sure that it's really coming from a scientific organization, a science person who's done clinical studies, case studies, so that they can actually show you. So this talks about every emotion having a frequency. What's the difference between happiness and sadness?
Perception.
Yes.
The shape of the waves.
The shape of the waves. So if everything's like a radio wave, okay? So right now, you're all exchanging energy. How many of you know that? You're sitting within 7 to 14 feet of people. Your energy emanates about 7 to 14 feet out, just depending on how much energy you have and how much spiritual work you've done. The bigger your energetic field will go out. within 7 feet of someone, or 14 feet, because if mine at minimal is radiating 7 feet out, and yours is radiating 7 feet out, at about 14 feet, our energies are intermeshing. The sun is giving us energy and giving us waves, right? Would you agree with that? So planetary alignments. Certain planets come into our solar system and they're giving off an energy frequency and an energy wave. So we're getting that here on the Earth. Make sense? Okay. Now I had all this science up here for you guys. So I'm going to have ask the left brainers to work with me, and I promise you if you go home and you Google it, you'll find it. I promise. All right? So we're always in this wave. How many of you can walk in a room and you know if somebody's angry? You know if the disagreement just happened? You can tell if it's happened. What's the difference between a bar and a funeral home? Walk in it. Immediately you feel the difference. And at a bar you feel more like people are having fun, going kind of crazy. You walk into a funeral home, it's very somber, it's very sad. Even if nobody's in there, you can still feel it because those waves stay there, those energetic waves. So, each of our emotions has a frequency that sends out a wavelength. So anger, just to let you know, looks like this at the top, all right? Relaxation is in the middle and appreciation is down at the bottom. But on the other side is measuring the frequency. And what I love about this is I was able to cross-reference it because I'm very left brain as well at times. And I was able to cross-reference this appreciation and gratitude with that cone. And guess what? This vibrates up to 700. That cone said the exact same thing. Different sources, same information. Okay? So if we're giving off these frequencies, they have a pattern to them. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
They have an energetic pattern of some sort. So, if we have a pattern with our energy frequencies and we're staying in a state of happiness, it creates a pattern within ourselves and that emanates outside of ourselves. So happiness has a higher megahertz than sadness, guilt and shame being at the very bottom. So this frequency or this pattern is a pattern that we carry within ourselves. How many of you have ever driven on a dirt road? How many of you ever lived on a dirt road? Okay, those are the people I want to talk about. Because my daddy still lives on a dirt road, you know? And the dirt road gets ruts, doesn't it? So if the tires stay in the same place, or the erosion wears in the same, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper, doesn't it? So if your energetic pattern, if your energetic frequency is typically in happiness, you have a pattern that has been dug into, so that happiness is easy to sustain. It's easy to sustain because your neurological transmitters that fired in your brain, happiness, 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 created a pathway. And that pathway now is dug in really deep and it's awesome. It's beautiful because you can stay in happiness. How many of you stay in happiness? You stay in happiness. Like you wake up in the morning, you're happy. You eat breakfast, you're happy. You eat lunch, you go out, you talk to people. I'm hot. I'm hot. Like, is anybody else hot? It's hot. Like all of a sudden I got a wave of energy that was like, woo! So you stay in happiness, right? I wasn't meaning I'm hot. I was meaning I'm hot. So you've got this pattern, this frequency that is dug in, and you now, it's easy to stay in happiness. But how many of you work outside of your home? You work with other people. Are they all happy? Really hard to stay in happiness when they're not all happy. Right? Very, very difficult. So if you had a guilt pattern where you've stayed in guilt, guess what? Yes, I agree. Did you turn it down? Did somebody flip it? It's yes, because it's not turning on, so I don't know if somebody turned it off, but it's definitely very warm. Thank you. Okay. So if you tend to be more negative or in guilt, you have increased that pattern within your frequency. Does that make sense to you? Can your left brain and your right brain agree on that? Like if I'm negative and I'm in guilt, I've got that pattern throughout my body. All right. So, before, scientists had said that it was all about our genes, our genomes, our DNA, our RNA, all that, right? So if you had the breast cancer gene, you were going to get breast cancer. Okay? So they found these genes. Well, then what some scientists started doing is they looked at children that had been adopted, that had grown up in an adopted home. And they found children in adopted homes that had the gene for breast cancer, but never got it. Never got the breast cancer. And then they said, well, wait a minute. Then they found children that had grown up in adopted homes that did not have any of the cancer genes at all and developed cancer. And they said, wait a minute, what's the difference? Why is it that some genes are activated and other genes are not? And what that led them to do is start studying the environment that the child was in. And it wasn't just the environment, like I love Dr. Lolly is here, and she's going to, I seriously encourage you guys to please stay for her seminar at the end. She's going to talk a little bit about this, and I'm not going to go into it because she's really going to address it very, very greatly. But they started looking at the environment. How many EMFs? How many of you know what an EMF is? Electromagnetic field. Okay, electromagnetic radiation. So it wasn't just the field, it was also the radiation. So then they started looking at their environment, like what was the water that they were drinking. Then they started finding children that weren't. They were living way out in the mountains and they weren't really subjected to the EMFs and the EMRs and all of the stuff that's in the water. They had a very healthy, but they still didn't have the cancer gene and they developed cancer. So the scientists went, well, wait a minute. Wait, why is that? And what they found is that throughout that entire family lineage, even though that child was not born of those parents, the child was raised by that family, and that family always got cancer. And guess what? The child got cancer. Because the thought process was, I'm going to get, do you see? So then they started studying not just the environment, because sometimes we can be healthy as an ox, but we're living with huge problems in our environment. And actually they're saying 95% of cancers are actually environmentally caused, just to let you know. Dr. Lawler will talk a little bit about that as well, won't she? She's amazing, amazing, amazing person. If you're wanting to spiritually ascend, and that means, how many of you know that we have what they call junk DNA? Junk DNA. Okay. Now I really wish this video, actually, you know what? I think I might still be able to show it to you. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. Can everybody see a screen? If I were to, can everybody see a screen? Okay. I'm going to plug it in and I am going to play it so you can hear it over the speakers so that you can see it. But before I go into the junk DNA and how we can start, it's not junk DNA. How many of you know that? Do you believe that there's a higher source? Whatever you call it, there's a higher source of some sort. I don't believe that higher source really made a mistake and said, let's just put in some strands of their DNA that really do nothing. It's just junk. So science started finding out that that junk DNA is not junk DNA. That DNA actually has information in it. It has not just information, but gifts, what I call gifts of the Spirit. That when you were able to activate those DNA strands, you were able to do things that people would call miracles. So I'm going to show you this quick, and we're going to talk about how to activate those DNA strands so that you can continue to ascend. If you come back next time, I will promise you I will have all of the science for you so that you'll be able to see it, because each pattern, and what I would love for you to do, if you have a pen and a piece of paper, if not, put it on your smartphone. You can, Julia, what was the video with the sand and the frequencies and they made the pattern? Do you remember? Can you look on the, she's going to give you a URL. Actually, you know what? If you can see a screen, you play it. And I will play it here, so you're going to have to wait until me say go, so that you get the sound while at the same time it's on the slide. So give me just a second. I'm going to plug this in. Get where you can see a screen so that you can understand. We're going to do the sand first. Several slides up there. Okay, play it. So they're increasing the frequency. So each frequency had a pattern. Did you see that? Each frequency had a pattern, and the higher the frequency went, so each frequency had a pattern. So at the top of the cone, remember the cone that I showed you? So enlightenment and joy had a higher frequency than guilt, shame, fear. Do you see that? So the more complex the pattern got, the higher the frequency got, the more complex the pattern got. That's what goes on in your body. That's what you're creating in your environment. So if you want your blood cells to operate optimally, where do you think your vibratory frequency should reside? At a denser, lower rate, or at a higher rate? At a higher rate, because your blood cells then circulate and do what they're supposed to do, right? If you're down here, the blood cells get coagulated and they stick together and they get flat. Have you guys ever had your blood where you looked at your blood underneath a microscope and you see it's all sticky and gooey and it's actually supposed to be nice and round and it's supposed to be flowing? So the higher your frequency that you create in your body, the Creator gave you this body. You have something different. Can everybody raise your hand just so that I know where I'm at with you? How many of you believe that there is something separate from your physical body? There's something separate from your physical body, like a spirit, a soul, something. There's something in your body that's separate than your physical body. Okay. So if you're given this body as kind of a host, let's say, think about Body Snatchers or, no, that's an old movie, I'm dating myself. The Host, that's a newer movie. The Host, if you saw that. But it was about aliens that came and they were using the human body. So if you kind of think in those abstract terms, that we are kind of aliens, and we're in our body, and this temple is given to us, and what we create, what we think about, we're creating an environment within ourselves. Does that make sense? So if you're creating a frequency that is high, guess what? Your health is going to be good. If your health is going to be good, you're going to be in a good state of awareness, you're going to be happy, you're going to be attracting to you more of those patterns, right? So if my frequency is high and I've got this serious pattern going on, serious pattern, and somebody's down here and they come in my frequency, now we've got two choices, right? Either that person is going to rise to my frequency or I'm going to lower to theirs. How many of you got a friend that when they come, you feel so much better? You're just like, oh, I love when that person comes visit me. I love that person. I feel so good around that person. And how many of you have the vampires? When you see the caller ID, you do something like, I'm home. Because what happens is we haven't learned to sustain our pattern and our frequency while other people having that frequency. So how many of you have ever come in conflict with somebody and somebody's really angry and they're like, raw, and you're not really angry, but here in just a minute, all of a sudden you're raw, and right back at them. Has that ever happened to you? Okay, they're pulling you into their frequency. Does that make sense? So they're initiating anger in you because remember I showed you that, what anger vibrates at, those waves? So that anger is hitting you and guess what? You're like, really? Fine. Ooh, I'll come right back at you. Whereas if somebody looks at you in love and in compassion and in peace, all of a sudden you move into that love and that compassion and that peace. So what I'd like to do today is help you to sustain a higher vibratory frequency so that you pull people into your pattern instead of you being pulled into theirs. So all the spiritual books talk about this. Association, where two or more are gathered. Association is very important, but it's the right association, right? Does that mean that if I have a really good friend who's a really good person and they're going through something that I go, oh, I don't want that frequency? No, then I'm self-absorbed and there's a problem. We're meant to support and help lift people up so that they then can change their frequency pattern. If you just leave them alone and they're in a depressed state, do you think they're going to get happier? Or do you think they're going to get more depressed?
More depressed.
So if the Creator put us here to spur each other on and to help each other and to literally lift each other into a different vibratory pattern, we cannot run off into the woods like we want to sometimes. Okay? So I'm going to play this next video for you because it's going to talk about some of the DNA things that we're getting ready to break on because I know that we're running out of time. I'm going to have to get really fast so that Dr. Alali can talk just a minute about what she's going to be talking about before we say our goodbyes just for 2 minutes. And it will be awesome. 1, 2, 3, play.
Of our DNA, and this is a concept that is not entirely understood yet. This is something that is happening right now. It's not something that will happen all of a sudden and that you have to wait for. This is something that you and I get to activate by becoming more in tune and aware of ourselves. If we're just sitting around saying, goodness, I'm stoked for my DNA to activate, but in the meantime, I'm going to keep eating at McDonald's and keep watching TV for 4 hours a day and keep on being a jerk to people I don't like, then don't expect yourself to experience any profound shifts. The higher strands of your DNA will bring you more in tune with yourself, for they are you, and you have to be the one to choose the path of awareness and unity. So higher strands of DNA, what does this really mean? The portions of the DNA chain that science has presently identified as the double helix represent only the surface portions of the chemical, elemental, and electrical components of the active DNA strands. Science has yet to understand the multidimensional spectra of DNA manifestation, though we are beginning to remember. The human DNA imprint will always appear from external analysis as a two-strand double helix configuration in 3 dimensions. What is not understood is that within the double helix there are and will be progressively more additional double helix strands which fuse together. As our understanding evolves into the multidimensional spectrum, the understanding of the structure and function of DNA will progressively advance. A team of Russian researchers working with DNA started a project to progressively learn more of DNA by combining forces with linguists and have dived into the unknown of the 90% of junk DNA which we currently embody. Their findings are evolutionary. According to them, our DNA is not only responsible for the construction of our body, but is also used as data storage and in communication. They learned that the 90% of DNA follows the same rules as all of our human language. The way that sentences, paragraphs, and chapters work in a book is the same way that our DNA works. This is the first double helix strand, the one that Western science looks at, which is basically like a sentence of DNA. However, if you step back and see the bigger picture, you begin to see the paragraph. Stepping back further, and you see the chapter, and so on. These larger and larger strands span through the different frequencies of reality, the different dimensions, which makes them harder to find in our modern science. Western science, instead of looking at DNA like this, we're cutting up pieces of DNA from here and adding them over here, which is similar to picking up words in certain sentences and putting them with other words in other sentences to see if they fit together and can make a new energy, new idea. This is the nature of our junk DNA, of which Western science just didn't understand for the longest of times. The DNA isn't junk, it's just misunderstood, and also not as used right now because of our dense level of consciousness. However, we are beginning to activate and reawaken our DNA through our ever-expanding consciousness and our desire to know more. The very awareness of this DNA is what is activating it, awareness of our higher selves and our connection to the all and the interconnectedness to each other. We are directly connected to the earth as well and exist as a part of it, kind of like a child in its mother's womb. If anything happens to the mother, it creates an energetic imprint that affects the child. The earth is our mother, hence the name Mother Earth. Our morphogenetic field exists as a part of her larger morphogenetic field of the earth. If something happens to the earth's energetic grid, then we inherit these problems into our own grid. Our energetic anatomy is exactly like the earth's, with chakras, meridians, axiotonal lines, and DNA. If something happens to the planet's grid, then that affects every person's DNA on the planet. We're at a very important point in history right now, because we are remembering how to regenerate our original organic blueprint for health. We don't even need science and fancy equipment to do this. We're just required to learn how to use what we came here with. By moving into a space of love and light, opening and living from the heart, and living in a place of emotional stability and health, you can once again reactivate your light body, and in doing so, reconnect with the higher frequencies of your being. Energetic blockages will reveal themselves as problems in your own life. Depression, anxiety, temper rages, or personal problems in your life which are causing stuckness or driving you down a path of chaos or disruption are also energetic blockages. We talked a bit more about this in lesson 13. A lot of teachings online demonstrate that there are specific shapes and geometries that you have to work with, such as the star tetrahedral Merkaba field, to reactivate your light body. This is true, but you also have to remember that the geometry is inherent to your being. It's actually not necessary to put pressure on yourself to put a star tetrahedral Merkaba field around your body and keep each piece spinning opposite to each other at this particular speed, at this particular ratio, and it is important to get the feel of it and understand where it is and what shape it is. Beyond that though, it's more importantly that you put your focus into love, your heart center, and creating a vibrant reality for yourself. Realize that you are a creator and that the experiences that you are having are of your creations. Bring love into your life and all of those around you. The light body will reactivate when you are ready, and you will know when you are ready. My advice is also to work with sacred geometry. If it resonates with you, put conscious thought into understanding things like the yin-yang, the understanding of duality. You can also work with the Trinity, which is understanding mind, body, and spirit, or wisdom, understanding, and beauty. Then there's the four elements of creation. Earth is physical, air is mental, water are emotional, and fire is spiritual. If you're familiar with the tarot, you can use it to go so much deeper into understanding the four elements, which is the basis of the four suits in the playing deck of cards. And the major arcana are the experiences that you go through, the toroidal field geometry, from the path to the fool to understanding the all, from the singularity all the way around to the singularity. Beyond that, you can also try working with energies, meditate with crystals, go get Reiki or practice Qigong. The more you work with them, the more receptive you become in feeling the energy fields all around you. The final thing I want to say is this. We are all one, and our DNA is connected. The process of DNA activation is as much a solo journey as it is a collective one. Through conscious conversation, getting in tune with your friends, and opening up your heart to those around you who you can trust will facilitate DNA activation within not just you, but those who you communicate with. Think of it like a big jigsaw puzzle, and everyone has a different piece of this puzzle. By simply communicating with them, hugging them, gazing into their eyes, listening to what they have to say, and sharing what you know with them, you will facilitate a transfer of energy. And that's just it. DNA activation is feeling. Truly feeling more than you ever have before. There was a TED Talk by a man named Paul Zak, who spoke about trust, morality, and oxytocin, the hormone that facilitated these feelings within. In my understanding, hormones like oxytocin are the third-dimensional manifestation of these feelings and vibrations from the higher frequency, coming down into the physical body. Just as the heart organ is the physical manifestation of the source and center of your being and the different frequency as well. I will link you to this video. And ultimately, what he concluded was that physical contact, hugging, holding hands, eye gazing, are some of the most important factors in awakening to your whole self. Opening up true feelings of trust and awareness of yourself and others is what's going to take us to the next level of human connection. For when we can look into another's eyes and see ourselves, that's when we know we're on the right track. Want to change the world? Paul's conclusion was 5 hugs a day, and make them count.
Send out love.
Love, hug, because it releases the hormone called oxytocin in your brain, which is the happiness hormone. That's why if you've ever experienced one of my hugs, it's typically 20 seconds or longer. Yes, and do people try to pull away? And I go, no, I'm a real hugger. I'm not a cat. I'm a real hugger. I give real hugs. So if we're only using 10% of our brain, the dolphin uses about 20%. We have more connections in our body than the universe. Would you agree with this statement? That you can do more things than you ever thought you could?
Yes.
I love this one statement that says, in the scripture, it says, the Bible says, Jesus looked at a group of people and said, even you shall do what? Greater works than I. Greater works than I. Now, last time I checked, that particular energy could do hands-on healing. He could heal the blind. He could heal any disease. He could part waters. He could walk on water. These are all things that what if, I'm not here to tell you what to believe. That is not what I do here. I'm here to have you question. I'm not here to tell you what to believe. I'm here to have you question. So, what if those DNA strands, once they were activated, gave you the same gifts? how can we activate? In one way, we have to disconnect, and in another way, we have to connect. One way is disconnecting from computer, television, things flashing at you all the time to get you to buy something or do something. This will make you happy. If you buy this, you'll be happy. If you buy a Lexus, you'll be happy. If you buy a new house, you'll be happy. If you buy a boat, you'll be happy. If you buy this, you'll be happy. So we got to disconnect from those kind of things. And we've got to reconnect with each other. From my heart to your heart. In a heart space of love and happiness and joy. Now, it's difficult for us to stay in that space when we're surrounded with other energies that are chaotic. But the best way you can learn to sustain your energetic pattern in a happy, joyous state is through meditation. So, there's a study that was done, and it's published in the Journal of Psychoneuroendocrinology. I want you to say that word 5 times real fast. Showed a range of genetic and molecular differences, including reduced levels of pro-inflammatory genes. This correlates with faster physical recovery from a stressful situation after 8 hours of meditation. So if you meditated an hour and 15, let's see, there's 7 days, no, it would be like an hour and 8 minutes and some odd seconds every day, you would reach 8 hours of meditation in 1 week. When you meditate, you're quieting your mind. I say prayer is speaking with the Creator. Meditation is allowing the Creator to speak to you. So you have a seed within you, and I use this all the time. All the time. The kingdom of God is where?
Within.
It's within you. How many of you were either raised or use or have at any time picked up a Bible? Okay. The kingdom of God is within you. The Quran speaks about the kingdom being within. Every spiritual book talks about this kingdom being within us. So if this kingdom is within us and we can access this kingdom, how can we access this kingdom if our mind is always in control? Our ego is always in control. Our mind is always thinking about this and thinking about that. How many of you go to bed and you can't go to sleep? Your mind's spinning. Meditation is the fastest way you can activate your DNA strands. Now, does this mean your DNA cannot be activated if you don't meditate? No, do not make that mistake. Because if I meditate and I work on myself, and I reach a certain point, and I go out, I'm vibrating in a frequency. We've been talking about frequency, right? So if I've worked on myself, and I've meditated, and I've dug down, and I have really worked through my stuff, and I'm vibrating in a certain rate, just my beingness will help activate that in you. Remember when I said if I was angry, and I was like angry, and I'm like, "Bah!" Pretty soon you will be back at me, because I'm activating that frequency within you. The same thing goes for DNA activation. When you activate your DNA in a good way, just your activation, you don't have to go and say, let me do this for you. You don't have to do anything. Just you walking around is doing it. So, if somebody's not meditating, what that means is they need to be surrounded by a certain level of frequency to be able to activate that DNA. So, that's where collective consciousness comes in. When the collective consciousness gets to a place where you cannot harm another being, you cannot hurt another thing, you cannot stand by and idly watch while a woman is drugged down the New York subway screaming and yelling by 2 men down an alley to be raped, and hundreds of people walk by and do nothing. Or a soldier in a restaurant who got done with his meal, who intervened because a gang was doing something and was stabbed and was bleeding out on a sidewalk in Massachusetts, and people stepped over him. Not once, not twice, but hundreds of times with doing nothing. When you reach a consciousness level that no longer allows you to stay in that state, but you have so much love in your heart, so much peace, and so much joy that you're reaching out to your neighbors, not just your friends and your family, people you don't even know. You are changing your frequency. So, there's a beautiful saying that says, God is a frequency. Change your frequency, and I shall show you miracles. You have the ability. If you leave here with nothing else today but this, you have the ability to do great, unimaginable things. You have the ability to change the world one person at a time, and that person is you. You are an amazing, powerful spirit that is unstoppable. And that when you realize that, this world will change like this. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm glad you're searching and you're seeking for the answers. Ask and it shall be given. You must question your beliefs. You must question what you are wanting, what your desires are, why are they that, in order to completely embrace the all of you that there is. I'm going to have, after the prayer, I'm going to ask Dr. Alali to just share a little bit of her presentation. Just a couple of minutes so that you'll know what she's going to be talking about. Part of our energetic frequency is being changed because of our environment. If you don't believe that, please Google it. Please. Please look at the science behind it. When you're inundated with certain frequencies, your frequency changes. So there are things that you can do that can help yourself. One of the biggest things I said was meditating. The other thing is staying in a state of love and in your heart space. Okay? It's not hard. Here's what we do as humans. We make it hard. It's quite simple. The Creator gave you all of the tools. The Creator did not make it complicated. The Creator wants you to ascend. The Creator wants you to have everything you ever desired. We get involved and we make it complicated. I dare you. I dare you to spend a year meditating an hour every day. Every day. And then you can come back to me and tell me it doesn't work. If you take that challenge, I promise you, in the walk within a year, you will find yourself fully. And you will see that the love that the Creator has for you is so paramount. It is so strong, and it flows to you unending. It doesn't have judgment to you. It wants to help you. Your spirit is learning on this lesson that we call life. So if you just remember to quiet here, to pull here into your heart, and to ask the Creator and yourself to help you activate all that you are. find when you walk into a room that you change the frequency there, and they do not change you. So if you'll open your palms, take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, just allow all of these messages to come in. Even though we had technical difficulties, allow the message to simulate and become a part of you. Allow yourself to breathe in nothing but pure love. Feel it coming down from above as if a stream of the brightest ray of sun. And then as you breathe that in, you breathe it throughout your entire body. You allow yourself to connect to the Creator and allow that flow of love, of peace, of harmony and joy to fill you up. And with your next breath, really feel it overflow from you. Creator, Great Spirit, Giver of life and Giver of breath, we come to you again today in a good way, only asking for good things. We ask that these messages that we've heard today, that we question them and we dig. We dig deep within ourselves and we connect with you to a remembering of who we are and why we are here on this planet. That we are here not just to work 80, 90 hours a week, but we're here to be happy and joyous, to be stewards of the earth, to spread love and compassion and peace and joy, to be kind and gentle with ourselves and with all those that are around us. We ask you, Great Spirit, to connect with us now and allow your Spirit to flow through us. And we send this out to all of our communities, to all of our family members, to all of our brothers and all of our sisters throughout the world. We send this love. We send this love to the world leaders and ask that this love change their consciousness where no longer war can be waged, but peace will flow. We pray this, we ask this in the name of all that is. So it shall be. Amen. Aho! So before we change over, I'm going to invite you to stay for a moment. I'm going to ask Dr. Lolly to take just about 2 to 3 minutes to explain what she's going to be talking about. And then after Dr. Lolly explains that, I know Scout wanted to close out, and then I'm going to play you a native song. Because I believe that we have to stay really close to our culture. Because if we don't, we'll get lost. And then it doesn't matter if you're Irish, if you're Native American, if you're Asian, Hispanic, it does not matter. What matters is that you stay true. Okay? All right, I'm going to sing 2 songs for you. The first one, I'm just going to get you warmed up because the second one is quite vibrant and might scare you. Okay? So the first one is the Lakota Healing Song, and it's a very slow beat.
Well,
Sundance song. It's a prayer song. Native Americans say that singing is praying twice. This song is full of vibrancy and a lot of energy. So I'm very loud, is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay? So if you can breathe and relax into this, you might feel a lot of energy. Just kind of breathe, relax into it. This is a fast beat. footsteps, love and